Hello and welcome to the first CYBATHLON lecture series. My name is Roland Sigrist. I'm the co-head of CYBATHLON and also the head of competition. And I'm looking forward to the very first CYBATHLON lecture. We are on the road to 2024. And in order to prepare the teams very well to the competition, we thought we could initiate a CYBATHLON lecture series to exchange knowledge in CYBATHLON related topics. CYBATHLON will take place next October next year from 25 to 27 of October. Welcome to the very first lecture series. The CYBATHLON 2024 will be in a format where we invite all the teams that are now preparing for the competition to Schluefeg in Kloten in Zurich. But it is also possible that the teams create their own hub all around the world. In CYBATHLON 2024, we will have 8 different disciplines. We will also add the vision assistance race and the assistance robot race in the next year's CYBATHLON 2024. The teams are currently preparing. You see here a lot of pictures of the teams that have been involved in the past. And one opportunity for the teams to prepare for the CYBATHLON 2024, besides these lectures here, is also the CYBATHLON challenges that we initiated in 2022. We had the first CYBATHLON challenges in March 2022. You can also rewatch this competition and see how well the teams are already prepared. And then we had another CYBATHLON challenges this year in May, I think, May or March 2023, where we, for the first time, had the robot assistance race and the vision assistance race included. Next year, February 2, we have the third CYBATHLON challenges, which will be the last competition prior to CYBATHLON 2024 next year in October. So why did we come up with the lecture series format? We had in the past a lot of questions of different teams and potential teams. If we can share the knowledge in the community to be better prepared for a CYBATHLON competition, to further develop the assistive technologies according to the needs of the users, and finally to create a world without barriers. And we thought this is a very good idea. In order to shape this lecture series, we sent out the questionnaires to different teams and different students and institutions that we know in order to select the topics that are of most interest. We then deduced the topics. We came up with the CYBATHLON, with the 5 CYBATHLON lectures for this fall. We will start today with Christian Bermes, who will talk about how and why to succeed at CYBATHLON. And then we dive into different specific topics like motors and energy supply, user-centered design, over-engineering in this area, and machine scene understanding. So this will be the upcoming lectures. For today, I'm very welcome Professor Christian Bermes. He's a long-time CYBATHLON participant and also a great supporter of the CYBATHLON project. I'm very happy to have him here to have this first CYBATHLON lectures. He is currently at the Fachhochschule Graubünden in Switzerland. But to know a bit more about him, I will tell you about his CV. He studied at the Technical University of Hamburg, the University of Stuttgart, and the Georgia Institute of Technology in the USA between 2001 and 2006. Then he graduated as a Diplom-Ingenieur Technische Kybernetik and as a Master of Science in Engineering Science and Mechanics. He did his doctoral studies at ETH Zurich at the Autonomous Systems Lab, and he worked on microdrones. He also spent 3 months in Japan at the Chiba University. Then he went to industry, to Alstom and Robert Bosch as a researcher. before he started as a professor at the University of Applied Sciences in Rapperswil in 2014. There he continued his research on drones and land robots, but especially important for CYBATHLON, he initiated a team, the HSR Enhanced team, which competed in the wheelchair race. He was also involved in the exoskeleton Varilek team, and with the wheelchair team, he won the gold medal in 2016 in the CYBATHLON competition, as well as the gold medal in 2019 at the CYBATHLON series in Kawasaki in Japan, and finally also at the CYBATHLON 2020 Global Edition, Christian and his team could win the gold medal. And since September 2020, he's teaching and researching at the Fachschule Graubünden, and he's also leading a project on mobile robotics, on a mobile robotics field study. Now we are looking forward to the talk of Christian. He has a lot to tell about CYBATHLON. He has been in this project and supporting this project as a team and as a person for quite a while. Christian, the floor is now yours.
Thank you very much, Roland. I will quickly share my slides. Currently, I would say I'm more or less a CYBATHLON, and I have always been and will always be a CYBATHLON enthusiast. And I would like to thank you all that you actually selected this topic and are interested in learning on why and how succeeding at CYBATHLON might be something that makes you happy. Of course, it made me very happy, and I'm still happy about the time that I could spend during CYBATHLON. So again, thank you very much, and I hope there is something for you today. Now, I think the why is probably the question that I can answer the quickest. And of course, everybody has their reasons to participate in an event like CYBATHLON. So maybe you know a person that has a disability. Maybe you have a disability yourself and do research in the field. I was probably just a bit easier on this. I just stumbled across a link on LinkedIn in the late 2015. And what I saw was sort of the tune up for CYBATHLON 2016. And I got really amazed by the video, and that's why I would like to share it with you. So this is basically how it all started. Then, in the meantime, I quickly applied for some budget at my school in Rapperswil. We got some budget from the school, and so sort of the next question arose, okay, who is going to be our pilot? We did not know anybody, or at least I did not know anybody by the time having a personal disability. But somehow we were all clear that without knowing the pilot, developing a wheelchair is sort of pointless, even though we did not know too much about paraplegia or tetraplegia for that instance. And then that was probably already the first lucky hit. We met Florian Hauser. Florian was back then 25 years old. He had a motorbike accident in summer 2014, so he was relatively fresh out of therapy, and he has sub C5 tetraplegia. So not only his legs do not function anymore, but he has also some disabilities in his arms. But we met Florian, we fell in love with him. I think he sort of fell in love with us also. And so we thought, okay, we will go this way until CYBATHLON 2016. And we could already sort of put a check mark behind the point that we want to develop the machine around our pilot and with our pilot, since we knew him. And then, of course, the engineering stuff started. So we are in January 2016 now already. A first brainstorming. What you see here is photos from the brainstorming session. And what you see on this slide here is we thought about how can we place our pilot on the wheelchair and how can we keep the seat upright. So you see passive solutions here, maybe an actively controlled solution. Some crazy solutions like placing the pilot in a cocoon or having him lying on the wheelchair. So we were trying many different things, and here it was always good to have Florian's feedback because he could basically tell us what he is able to do and what he is not able to do, and that helped us already sorting out some of the solutions that we were investigating. Basically, what we did here was analyzing the challenge. So we knew the 6 CYBATHLON obstacles in advance, and we tried to find solutions for each and every of those obstacles, and then trying to combine those to a complete solution. So that's what basically happened here. And then, so I'll just go basically in a timely fashion through the project. What we also did was we ordered the obstacles. So not only were the obstacles known, but also the exact dimensions of the obstacles. We were discussing this, we were thinking about how to do this, and we decided, okay, what we need here are the original obstacles in order to train the original competition. And you see the photo here when basically the obstacles were made and arrived on campus, and my personal feeling was, now I have the knife at my neck. Because of the budget that I got from the school, a really non-significant part was now spent on the obstacles. Little interesting side note, we decided to have our training area in a place where all the school can basically look over our shoulders and see what we're using the money for. That was intended. We wanted the school to know, first of all, so that they see we're not doing secret stuff here, and secondly also to basically have this obstacle and have to show that we do something that's worth the money. What we did not know at that time, but what proved off later on, was that we were really training as we were competing on those obstacles. So something went wrong on the obstacles. We could not tell ourselves probably the beautiful lie, okay, on the original obstacles, this will work, but we had the original obstacle there. So every time something did not work, we knew, okay, this is not going to work at CYBATHLON. We have to find a different, better solution to solve this. And then we got to the point where we said, okay, probably the king obstacle will be the stairs. So how do we deal with this obstacle? And we went a very practical solution. We said, okay, we got, thanks to our sponsor Invacare at the time, we got a free wheelchair. And we also found like a stair climbing mechanism, which we basically took from a commercial device where you can carry loads up and down stairs. And we combined those two available solutions. Plus, we used larger wheels at the rear of the wheelchair just to get a feeling of what it means to move a set of stairs up and down with an electric wheelchair. And here's basically the not very promising result. So our first attempt was very simple. Thanks to our sponsor, Invacare, who sponsored us a borrow wheelchair. We just used this wheelchair and a commercial stair climbing mechanism in order to try those stairs. And you see in the video, we were not 100% successful yet. So this is where we were standing, and we saw, okay, it might not be as simple as we thought, that we can just combine commercially available solutions. Maybe for one or the other obstacles, we really have to go a bit more into the details. And this is actually what we did. So we hired a couple of students that worked on their student thesis, on their bachelor thesis, even on their master's topics already. You see them here in the photo. And we challenged those students and said, okay, each and every one of you gets a single task of this wheelchair. So we had a thesis topic just on the electric drives for the wheelchair. We had a thesis topic on the seat adjustment of the wheelchair, one for the stair climbing mechanism, one for basically the steering mechanism of the wheelchair. And then we also had one student who was responsible for all the interfaces between those projects, and whose only task was to make sure that all the projects work together perfectly at the interface, in order to not only solve the topic solutions, but in order to actually create the first functional prototype of our wheelchair. So the students accepted this challenge. They worked super, super hard. They came up with really good results, and you see the result here in the center of the slide, which is the first functional prototype of the CYBATHLON wheelchair by the time. If you take a bit of a closer look, you see a couple of, as I find it, quite interesting details. So first of all, maybe if you look at the chassis of the wheelchair, it's white, and it's actually a wooden chassis. So here we already ran into, let's say, a larger problem if you only have 10 months time for your project. And this problem was delivery times. And so the deliverer of the chassis was not able to deliver on time. We thought, okay, we still want to know whether the students worked well. So we decided to order sort of a wooden mock-up model. And basically, the students could integrate their solutions on this wooden mock-up model of the chassis. And it was, as we will see later, it was actually quite a strong chassis. So it accompanied us for quite a while. The second interesting solution is that this wheelchair was not able to be steered yet, so it could just go straight forward. And also you see that at the bottom it is quite empty, so there's no stair climbing mechanism installed yet. But the students reached their goal, and they brought us forward in a tremendous way. If you look at the date, it's 9th of June 2016. That was about the date, Roland remembers it, when we had to submit a video of our wheelchair showing at least the overcoming of one obstacle in order to stay in the race. So we were always kind of threatened to be kicked out because we were technically not where CYBATHLON wanted us to be as a participant. So we seemed to be sort of still on track. And actually on the same day, we decided, okay, you still see the wooden chassis, you still see the no steering wheelchair without stair climbing mechanism. On the same day, we decided, let's go for the maiden journey. Because it is so relevant for the CYBATHLON application. Actually, we have the chance now to fulfill this check mark. So thankfully to the team, I had the chance to do the maiden ride. And of course, I want to share this with you. With a wheelchair that the students had just finished. So you see it's a non-steerable wheelchair. It cannot climb stairs. It has a wooden chassis, but it is able to drive forward, and that's all that mattered, because we needed to submit this video to CYBATHLON and show that we can overcome one obstacle. You see, I tried not to break the wheelchair in this video, and that's probably why I did not complete the fastest time. Florian, in the process of learning the driving with this wheelchair, was way quicker. But eventually, I made it through the obstacle. We could submit this video to CYBATHLON, and that brought us one step closer to the starting line in 2016. It looks funny looking back on it, but of course, it was a major success for us as a team, because we were actually able, just a few months before CYBATHLON, to complete a first obstacle, even with a wheelchair that was not in a perfect condition yet. We were able to keep up our application as a CYBATHLON starter, and this is basically all we wanted, right? We wanted to be at the starting line of CYBATHLON 2016. So I guess what we learned from this is that we celebrate our successes, may they be as small as it was at this point. And then again, timing was already quite limited, so now the journey continued pretty quickly. We got an invitation from CYBATHLON to meet at Balgrist, meet with other teams. So you see in the background, back then called Team Scalevo, now a successful startup called Skevo. So they were there on the obstacles, and Florian, our pilot, was also there. You see still with a functional prototype wheelchair, so still the wooden chassis. It's still more or less the same as I wrote it in June, but it got in the meantime it got the steering and also the stair climbing. So we had a chance to be away from home. We were in Zurich at Balgrist. We had the chance to meet with other teams and exchange, basically for the first time, experiences and challenges with them, which was fantastic. We learned priceless lessons in terms of logistics, timing, pilot and team endurance. And so sort of the take-home message for us was, if we get a chance to test our system in a different place, away from home, this is a perfect preparation for CYBATHLON. So we tried to make as much use of those cases as possible in the future. Oh, and by the way, Roland, this is you on the photo, plus a couple of other people relevant at CYBATHLON at that time. Okay, so it's July 8th. We still have August, September, still 3 months to go. So plenty of time until CYBATHLON. And so the next thing that we did was, according to the development plan that we had, develop actually 2 more prototypes. So the first one was Z. The wheelchair had a name in the meantime, Z. So Z 1.5, sort of the intermediate prototype. You see it now has an aluminum chassis. So the first time we had basically the material that we wanted for Z. And we expected this to come in a bit more early. This is a look at the bottom of the wheelchair. So you see the tons of cables looking out. You see the single wheel suspension mechanisms. Let me put on the laser pointer for this. You see the single wheel suspension mechanisms here, more or less. You also see that we now have a stair climbing mechanism at the front and at the back. And it's still sort of the same idea for the stair climbing mechanism as the one that I showed in the hot rod borer video. But as I mentioned before, here we really needed a solution that is particular to the problem. So already a very complicated machine. And we basically see a computer science guy and engineer working hand in hand in order to assemble the parts for this machine. So everybody was involved in building up this machine, and everybody had to pay a lot of attention to detail already in order to make those machines worthy enough that they can actually survive at CYBATHLON. And so the whole story developed. We became, let's say, slightly popular. 23rd of August. So already almost 6 weeks before CYBATHLON, we got our first media visit in Rapperswil. And of course, I want to share those moments with you guys. So for the first time, we could present the stair climbing mechanism. Florian is in the cockpit. And this is the video that we allowed for contribution, where you see how he uses the combination of the wheels. He needs to adjust his seat position in order to get the center of gravity right. And then he uses the stair climbing mechanism at the back to come up the stairs. So we found sort of a very special solution to come up those 3 steps of stairs and also come down again. And they seemed to work. And then also, of course, Florian, as the center of everything, gave his first interview. Now for the non-Swiss or German speakers, how hard is it to steer the wheelchair? And Florian responds, especially on the stairs, it's difficult. Sensors would be great in order to know where the stair steps are and be a bit more precise in the steering. And he mentions that he cannot look back because of the tetraplegia that he has, so he has to rely on what he feels, or he needs the sensors that give him the feedback. Chances whether he will win at CYBATHLON, he doesn't say anything to this. He tries his best, the team does their best, and he thinks that we're on a good track. How important is it that a wheelchair can't? It would make life much more easier and give more freedom in order to be moving on in clubs or toilet. But this is still a race wheelchair and not an everyday wheelchair, so it's kind of hard. So what is a perfect wheelchair for you? In every case, a manual wheelchair. In order to be able to use the structures that I still have and keep them intact. So we also had part of that, and this brought us basically to the sort of the final stage of the project, which was the full competition training. And you see for this, we moved outside on our campus in Rapperswil. You see it's more or less 2 weeks before CYBATHLON already. We had the full competition in its full length outdoors. We could not do that indoors. We had to take turns there. You see also Florian is now in the final prototype, or let's say the competition version of his wheelchair, nicely painted in blue. Also the chassis is still is a different part. Everything else can be seen. So we have the single wheel suspension here. We have the stair climbing mechanism in the back and in the front of the wheelchair. Each of those wheels is driven. He has several steering modes. He can move his seat position to the front and to the back in order to get the center of gravity position right. Here in the back is basically the computer that runs all the stuff and that connects the joysticks to the drives. And then we also had some special solutions for the door obstacle. So you see it a little bit here and here. Those were, they look so funny, but they were super important devices in order to open and close the door for Florian as a person with tetraplegia who is not able to turn around in his seat and just basically use his hand in order to close the door. We were trying the craziest stuff on this wheelchair. So of course we were taking the times. We were trying out a couple of failures, always keeping in mind that if there's a failure on the racetrack, Florian is the only person who is allowed to work on this failure. If he gets some external assistance, then he will be disqualified in the race. So we were trying a couple of those things. We were also trying with, let's say, a bit of public attention. That's why we were outside. And by this, we trained, of course, Florian in his wheelchair such that he was the person who knows the wheelchair the best and is actually absolutely capable of performing in this wheelchair, even if no engineer is around. And I think this is also one of the key aspects that we had to fulfill in order to have Florian and his wheelchair ready for CYBATHLON. Well, and then the big day came. October 6th was when we loaded the car. The evening of October 6th. You see the wheelchair in the back. We are basically ready to go. One more night to sleep, then drive over to Zurich to the arena in order to, at least from our point of view, challenge the most important part of CYBATHLON. And I really mean the most important part. If you just look into the faces of Florian in the cockpit, Sergio, who's in his back. Also, I do not look too easy right now because tech check was really the decisive factor whether you may attack the obstacles or not. So whenever you performed well on an obstacle, you basically got a green marker and you were allowed to attack these obstacles also the next day in the CYBATHLON race. But if you showed any flaws, may it be technical flaws or the pilot not feeling ready to overcome the obstacle with their machine, CYBATHLON had the freedom to not allow this pilot machine combination on the obstacle. And of course, for the competition, that would have meant you lose the points that you could win there. And of course, our goal was to get a green check mark for all of the obstacles. And that's why we are so super focused here. And we also made it through tech check perfectly. So if there's one piece of advice, then it would be take tech check even more seriously than the competition, because this is where you decide whether you will actually have a chance to compete. I will save you all the details on the competition because, of course, you can find lots and lots of ideas and video footage on YouTube, for example. I just want to try to sum up a couple of ideas on how to be successful at CYBATHLON. Now, first of all, develop your machine together with your pilot. Do not try to develop anything without knowing who will be your pilot, because probably you will have to overdo your design afterwards. So work closely with your pilot, know your pilot, and get the right solution for your pilot. It doesn't. In 2016, I heard. I basically heard the quote: "It doesn't have to be high tech. It doesn't have to be low tech. It has to be the right tech for your pilot." And I think this still holds until now. Secondly, analyze the challenge. Of course, CYBATHLON nowadays is on a completely different level than it was in 2016. So there are some elements of surprise now within the challenge, and maybe you have to stay versatile if you analyze the CYBATHLON challenge nowadays. But nevertheless, analyze the challenge and make your wheelchair a tool that basically connects your pilot with the challenge. Train as you compete. You saw the slide where the obstacles arrived in Rapperswil, and I would say this still holds. So try to get to the original parkour as quickly as possible. Try to get all the obstacles. Nowadays, I would say this has become a bit easier because CYBATHLON is working with a lot of IKEA standard furniture now, and not some completely handmade obstacles as in the past. So it is possible, and it's really worth the money. So train as you compete. Do not try to lie to yourself, okay, it hasn't worked here, but it will definitely work in the competition. I still think this is not going to happen, or you get really, really lucky. Approach the goal on all threads possible. You saw that for our team, we relied heavily on the workforce of students. Many of the students became team members later. The reason why we did this was, of course, we did not have enough time in the research team to challenge all the tasks at the same time. Also, it would have been way more costly. For the students, we could basically just hand out ECTS points for their studies. And of course, the students were super, super motivated to work on a project like this. And so it worked basically for both sides. The student had a cool topic for their thesis, and the thesis results were critical to the success of our project. So really do this. It'll save you money that you might need later on for spare parts, maybe for travels, things that you cannot solve otherwise. Mark every success that you have, not only because it gives motivation to your team, but also in order to make sure that people learn about your project. They might think that you are crazy or might even laugh at you, but even the people that laugh at you are most, at least from my experience, are willing to help you. And help is really something that you need as a team, because you're always fighting the time limits, you're always fighting with your budget. And if you get some maybe even unexpected help from the outside, it will help you quite a lot. As I said, use testing possibilities away from home. You will learn on your logistics. You will learn on the time planning. You will learn on the capabilities of your pilot and of your team. And then, of course, as the closer CYBATHLON comes, the more important pay attention to detail and train like it's a moon landing. I would say that everything, well, it's as always, everything that can go wrong will go wrong. And if you have already simulated those cases where everything goes wrong, your pilot will be much more relaxed in the competition. You will be much more relaxed because you sort of tried out already all the stuff that you might not experience, but that is a major risk to the success. And then finally, tech check is the most important checkline. Once you are through tech check, you can really relax and just basically load it all on the pilot. But before tech check, it's the engineer's deal, and that's basically where you have to act and where everybody expects you to act and be perfect. And then, of course, all credit goes to the team. It's the team that's responsible for success at CYBATHLON, the team and only the team. Of course, the teams will change, and if you look around the images, you will see there's always different faces on the teams. That's normal with time. But the cool thing is that you really create something together. The pilot is in the center of it, but the team around it is just as important as the pilot. And that's why I find CYBATHLON such a cool thing. Now, how would you continue from this? Enhanced is still there. If you want to learn more about also what happened after 2016, there's a whole new story to tell between 2016 and 2020, when the second enhanced team on the exoskeleton arrived. Just visit this homepage, hsr-enhanced.ch. And of course, get in touch with Silvia Rona, who is the team manager of the enhanced teams at Rapperswil. Here's her email address. She's also here on the left in the photo. And maybe she's even part of the crowd today. Let's see. So she's really the person to talk to, because she has been with CYBATHLON Enhanced since the very beginning, since 2016. Now, I do not want to scare you away. Please stay for the questions and answers session. Maybe use the 30 seconds of the CYBATHLON trailer in order to get your questions right, and then I will be happy to respond to your questions right after the CYBATHLON trailer for 2024.
I think what CYBATHLON demonstrates is there are no boundaries. when you watch this event, you start to believe that is possible.
Thank you very much, Christian. I had to smile from time to time, looking also back to the first months and years of CYBATHLON. We are now ready for the questions and answers. In this session, we have also Mariona Münger here from the CYBATHLON teams. She is a competition manager and also science manager in the CYBATHLON team. She took care of the questions. But maybe I can start with the very first question. So if you look back at your journey to CYBATHLON 2016 and 2020, what was the most relevant eye-opener for you in the whole context of CYBATHLON developing assistive technologies for daily life? So what was a moment where you thought, okay, this is something very relevant?
Yeah, there are probably many eye-openers. For me personally, I think it was important to really speak about this idea. So when we started, the idea was pretty much crazy. Starting CYBATHLON 10 months before it actually takes place. But the more we opened up and the more we spoke about it, the more people we found that helped us. And this is the only advice that I can give to other teams. Really speak about it and do not worry whether people find this funny or ridiculous. As long as you are convinced, you can push this forward. And we've had a couple of those moments also after CYBATHLON 2016 when we thought, okay, maybe next we can try to start a team together with ETH Zurich as a relatively small university of applied sciences. We thought, okay, this might sound a bit crazy, but it might work out, and it actually worked out. So yeah, that was probably the largest eye-opener to me.
Thanks. Mariona, do you have a question from the audience?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Jenny?
Thank you for the questions. Yes, the first question would be, did you also take the market requirements and the health insurance companies' admission requirements into the development?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. It's, to us, it did not play a role back then, because we thought, okay, we just want to make it to the starting line of CYBATHLON, and we would be super happy without even taking into account that this could be a commercial product. And of course, if you look at the Z wheelchair, it does not really look like a commercially available wheelchair. But for the reasons to start at CYBATHLON are very differently. And of course, there was with back then Scalevo, now Skevo, also a team who had exactly this in mind. And they basically started in all the CYBATHLON competitions with a wheelchair very close to their market wheelchair, or even with their market wheelchair. And I'm sure that they had those requirements in mind when they started CYBATHLON. So I think it depends on the reasons why you start there.
Maybe if I can follow up on this question. So you learned a lot during this CYBATHLON journey. What could be translated also in terms of what you learned to the development of assistive technology for daily life? So it has to be ready at the competition, but what is also the learnings that translate? You are very competitive. We are a very competitive team, but what can be translated to assistive technology development also for the market then?
Mm-hmm. I'm trying not to respond myself here. I would really say focus on the development around and with your pilot. And I mean, this is also something that is being done in commercial products. It's normally you of course you buy sort of the basic wheelchair, but then you adapt it to the very single person that will be riding this wheelchair in terms of wheels and kind of seat that you want and stuff like that. So maybe try to find a sort of a minimal a minimal baseline where you can say, okay, this is something that holds for all, but then always you need to adapt personally, and I think this still holds.
Thank you. The next question fits to the first one, or to the answer before. So how did you know that Florian is a suitable pilot? And what are the qualities of Florian which make him a good pilot and especially collaborator in your project?
Let me start with the second question. Florian is a one-of-a-kind guy. He comes from a technical background, so he works in the construction business, and so of course he has a knack for technology. So that's already a quality that's of course very valuable in a pilot. So he loves the stuff that he works with, and he's eager to give feedback in order to become better. As a human, as a collaborator, he's just a fun guy. So everybody groups around Florian, and he's really the guy you want to spend your time with. And of course, having this kind of guy in the pilot seat of your wheelchair is it's just magic to have him there. Now, the question now left the screen. Why is he a suitable pilot? Quite honestly, for first CYBATHLON, with tetraplegia, he was not the perfect pilot in a sense. Paraplegia would have been a bit more would have been easier to solve, to put it like this. But he made up for this just as the person that he is. And in all the later CYBATHLONs, so this sort of gap in the rubric was closed, and basically the differences between paraplegia and tetraplegia were annotated, and the rules were set like this, that you do not have an advantage if you are a paraplegic pilot. And this is also something that we learned, I think, during CYBATHLON, that depending on how you set the rules, you might even foster exclusion rather than inclusion. But this is part of the learning process, and I think CYBATHLON also learns a lot from this.
Thank you. We still have some time, so please put your question in the question and answer button below the screen. There is one more question that we already have here, and he thanks for the insights in the CYBATHLON experience in the very beginning, and asks, from your point of view, what is the best composition for a team? So which roles or students are really crucial or indispensable?
Of course, I always have mostly the view on wheelchair races and a little bit on powered exoskeleton races. And I think for those, some mechatronic capabilities, so people who know well in computer science and electronics and mechanics are of course good. But if you look into other disciplines like brain-computer interface, there it's probably way more just on the programming side, and it might be able to be solved by purely computer science people. I do not know enough about this to give a definitive answer, but maybe if this helps you, Tim, look at your team and look what qualities you have, and also, of course, look at your pilot and try to find out what he would love to do, because after all, the pilot will be in the competition, not the engineers. And once you have answers to this, you will probably find the competition that is best, especially also with the new competitions that you can find in CYBATHLON 2024.
Thank you. And the next is again about the students. So how did you motivate your students to participate and not to do a fancy e-car or space project?
I don't know. I just basically I just stated out the problem and said, okay, if you choose the topic here, you have an engineering project for a person with a disability. You will get to know that person with a disability, and you will get direct feedback from, in this case, him. And if, on the other hand, if you do not perform, then this person will not be able to, or might not be able to participate at CYBATHLON. So I put a lot at stake, I would say, but I also try to show how much you can win if you perform well, and all the students performed really well in the project.
Great, thank you, Christian. We are finishing the Q&A session at the moment, but please, if you have any... Oh, you can hear me, Christian? You just...
Yes,
okay.
I hear you. Sorry.
We are finishing the Q&A session. Many thanks for the insights and that you gave us and the CYBATHLON Teams community. Before I would closing with some slides, this first CYBATHLON lecture, I would like to thank you, Christian, for giving this lecture and all these insights.
Absolutely welcome.
Thanks a lot for being a supporter and enthusiast for so many years. And then also thanks Mariona for helping with the Q&A session, and Marcus for the technology. And also I want to thank Julia Amos, a PhD student from ETH Zurich, who helped preparing the CYBATHLON lectures with the topics. This is very great also that we have different PhD students from ETH Zurich and other universities that support CYBATHLON on the way to the next CYBATHLON 2024. And I also want to thank our team for communicating the CYBATHLON lectures and everything that you do. And now I would quickly share some last slides with you, which announce the next CYBATHLON lectures. So the next CYBATHLON lecture will be about motors and energy supply, selecting the optimal drive for controllability and efficiency. It will be already next Friday, September 29 at 12:30. You can also visit us at ETH Zurich in the lecture room. We will. It's also announced on our website where it is. Please register there, but you can also follow it online and ask your questions online. Very much looking towards the talk of Tobias Wellerdick and Max-Erik Busse-Grawitz from Maxon, who give insights about motors and energy supply. And then I would like to announce the CYBATHLON Challenges 2024 on the 2nd of February next year. It's the last competition on the road to 2024 in October. So as Christian said, it's always a good opportunity to test your device together with your pilot on the competition tracks. It gives you also a lot of insights and feedback. And then, of course, join CYBATHLON 2024 in October next year. So thank you so much. Thank you, Christian, again. And
thank you.
Hope to see you next week and see you at the next CYBATHLON event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roland. Thanks.